You might think the era of modern American OHV V8s began with Chevrolet or Chrysler. But no, the real story starts with Cadillac and an engine that shook the entire auto industry in 1949. The Cadillac 331 wasn't just an engine. It was the key that unlocked a new age of performance, compactness, and prestige America had never seen before. In a time when flathead engines still reigned, Cadillac dared to break the mold and sparked a nationwide sensation. But what most people don't know is this revolution wasn't accidental. It was the result of a quiet technological race among car makers, and Cadillac threw the first punch. So what made the 331 V8 a legend? And why, over 70 years later, are people still talking about it? In 1945, America emerged victorious from World War II, but its automotive industry faced a silent engineering crisis. Most manufacturers still clung to the flathead engine, a design rooted in the early 1900s, with low efficiency and outdated performance. Post-war consumers demanded more power, more speed, more innovation. Cadillac, a brand synonymous with luxury, knew that sleek styling and plush interiors wouldn't be enough. They needed a new heart for their cars, something that could redefine American prestige. By the late 1940s, two engineering teams within General Motors secretly entered a high-stakes race: Cadillac and Oldsmobile. Both were developing brand-new OHV V8 engines, and whoever launched first would change history. When Cadillac launched the 331 V8 in 1949, the entire American auto industry took notice. No one expected a luxury brand to be the first to introduce a high-performance engine, and even more surprising, it sparked a revolution in engine design. At the time, most automakers were still relying on flathead engines, where intake and exhaust valves were positioned inside the engine block. This limited airflow, reduced efficiency, and capped performance. Cadillac broke the mold by embracing overhead valve architecture, placing the camshaft inside the block and using push rods and rocker arms to control valves located above the cylinders. It may sound simple today, but this shift unlocked potential that flatheads could never reach. With overhead valves, airflow improved dramatically. The fuel-air mixture entered more easily, exhaust gases exited more efficiently. The result? More power, less fuel consumption, and the ability to rev higher. Back in 1949, the Cadillac 331 V8 delivered numbers that turned heads. It featured 331 cubic inches of displacement, or roughly 5.4 liters. Its compression ratio was 7.5 to 1, relatively high for the time. With its advanced OHV setup, it produced 160 horsepower at 3,800 RPM and a strong 312 pound-feet of torque. All of this was wrapped in a compact, smooth-running engine that outclassed its contemporaries. Despite its power, the 331 V8 was surprisingly light, around 700 pounds, thanks to aluminum components like pistons and the timing cover. But its real brilliance lay in the engineering details. Cadillac used domed pistons to optimize combustion, a one-piece forged crankshaft for strength and smoothness, short push rods, and a low-mounted camshaft for quick response, and most importantly, wedge-style combustion chambers for cleaner, more efficient fuel burn. All these features made the 331 not just powerful, but a true work of mechanical art. It started easily, ran cooler under load, and delivered thrilling yet refined performance, a rare combination in the late 1940s. More importantly, this engine didn't just shine for a moment. It set the foundation for GM's entire next generation of V8s, from the 365 and 390 to the 429. Rival companies had no choice but to respond. Chrysler launched its legendary HEMI. Ford countered with the Y block. Rival companies like Chrysler and Ford had no choice but to respond, introducing the Hemi and Y block engines to stay in the race. That competition would soon spark a wave of innovation across the industry. But first, Cadillac needed a real-world showcase to prove the 331's brilliance wasn't just theoretical. That moment came in 1949, when the first Cadillac Series 62, equipped with the 331 V8, rolled onto American streets. It wasn't just a new model, it was a statement. The press called it a machine from the future. Drivers had never experienced anything so smooth, powerful, and refined in a domestic car. Though it was a luxury sedan, the 1949 Cadillac surprised drivers with its seamless acceleration, quick throttle response, and effortless hill climbing. All thanks to the 331 V8, an engine that delivered performance without sacrificing quietness or comfort. It was one of the rare cars of its time that felt both athletic and thoroughly Cadillac. Soon, the engine spread across Cadillac's entire lineup, from the Series 60 Special to the flagship Fleetwood. Sales surged. Dealers reported sold-out inventories, and customers lined up for the chance to drive the future. Inevitably, the competition responded. Oldsmobile launched the Rocket V8, igniting a performance war unlike any before. A horsepower race Cadillac had already set in motion. While other automakers were starting from scratch, Cadillac already had the perfect foundation to go even further. From that point on, the 331 didn't remain a one-off. It became the seed of an engine family that would span nearly 2 decades. And remarkably, even as displacement, horsepower, and supporting technologies evolved, the core engineering behind the 331 stayed intact because it was already that good. In 1956, Cadillac increased displacement to 365 cubic inches, bumped compression, and pushed power close to 300 horsepower. An astonishing figure for a luxury car at the time. Just 3 years later, the 390 V8 arrived, bringing more torque to power the growing Coupe de Villes and Eldorados. Then, in 1964, the 429 V8 debuted, marking the final, most refined evolution of the original design. Smooth, powerful, and built to last. What's admirable is that from 1949 to 1964, Cadillac never abandoned its founding principles: in-block camshaft, overhead valves, domed pistons, wedge-style combustion chambers, and a forged crankshaft. Each version was an enhancement, not a replacement. By staying true to its roots, Cadillac's C8s didn't just get stronger, they retained the smoothness, durability, and quiet sophistication that defined the Cadillac name. However, even as this engine family continued to perform admirably, by the mid-1960s, a quiet wave of change was reshaping the American auto industry. New regulations on emissions, safety standards, and fuel economy meant that large displacement engines, no matter how well built, were becoming less viable. The Cadillac 429 V8, the final and most refined descendant of the original 331, had reached the limits of its design foundation. It remained smooth and dependable, but the writing was on the wall. Cadillac needed a new path, a modern V8 platform that was more compact, more adaptable, and better suited for an evolving automotive landscape. In 1967, GM officially retired the old V8 architecture and introduced a new generation. the 472, followed by the massive 500 cubic inch engines. These new designs offered higher output, simpler manufacturing, and better compliance with tightening federal standards. Yet, that transition, which seemed like the end of a chapter, was actually the beginning of a legacy that would live on. The Cadillac 331 didn't fade away. It continued to influence how Americans built, appreciated, and celebrated V8 engines for decades to come. From the Buick Nailhead and Pontiac 389 to the Chevy small block, nearly every major GM V8 that followed drew inspiration from the 331's blueprint. In-block camshaft, overhead valves, domed pistons, wedge combustion chambers, all engineered to strike a perfect balance between power, durability, and smoothness. These traits became the gold standard for American V8s. But the 331's impact wasn't just technical. It lives on in the hearts of classic car enthusiasts. At hot rod shows and vintage meets, collectors still hunt down 1949 to 1954 Cadillacs to restore. The engine's deep, warm, and authoritative rumble is unmistakable, a nostalgic soundtrack from Detroit's golden era. More importantly, the 331 stands as a symbol of post-war transition, from military production to civilian performance. It was the bridge between two great American eras, bold, ambitious, and unforgettable. The Cadillac 331 V8 wasn't just an engine, it was a symbol of America rising strong after the war, redefining what performance, refinement, and mechanical pride could mean. Since 1949, it set a new standard, not just for Cadillac, but for the entire American auto industry. And though it's long out of production, the technical legacy and spirit it left behind remain alive in the hearts of enthusiasts to this day. If you've ever driven one, heard its mellow growl, or simply admired what it stood for, share your story in the comments below. And if you want to keep exploring more legendary machines that shaped automotive history, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. The journey of the Cadillac 331 may have ended, but the legend lives on.